CIL 650 presents It's Your Money, an up-close and personal look at your finances. Here's your host, Fritz Snyder.
Up in the morning and out to school.
Hey, we are
The
back.
teacher is teaching the golden
Back to school. Today we're going to talk about the financial planning process in detail. You can look up on my screen. We have the 10-step financial planning process. And we're going to deal with each one of those steps individually and walk you through a written financial plan, because I don't think I'm delivering my message very well, because I should be overwhelmed with people who are willing to accept a no obligation, no cost written financial plan. I can't believe I don't have hordes of people breaking my door down and saying I want one of those. Because, ladies and gentlemen and listeners out there, it is the secret. Shouldn't be a secret, but it is the secret to financial success. If you want to build financial wealth, you need a plan. If you're going to build a house, you need a plan. If you're going to create a business, you need a plan. But what do? We become wandering generalities, no direction, no goals, no plan. Imagine going to the bank and saying, I need a loan to start a business. And the manager says, well, show me your business plan. Don't have one. You think you'd get the loan? No way, Jose. You would not get the loan, period. So, by not availing yourself of a financial plan, by not getting one, by not taking that important step, you're really making a decision to fail. Now, who in the world would do that? Someone once said, if you don't plan, you're really planning to fail. It's like when you don't have a will. You die without a will. Well, if you die without a will, you have the one the government writes for you, so you really do have a will, even if you don't have one. Why would you let circumstances and life dictate your financial future? Someone once said, if you want to predict the future, you create it today. So here's your chance to create your own financial future. Get yourself a financial plan. Well, I want to get right down to this, and I want your calls. So the number to call, 604-280-0650, long distance, 1-877-280-0650. You can log on, www.cil650.com. And for those who are shy, want to get somewhere, but they just are afraid to make a phone call, Frida is down at the office right now, area code 604-737-3512. Give her a call. Give her a call, and I will build for you a written financial plan, no cost, no obligation of any kind whatsoever. If you're calling long distance, it's 1-800-661-1495. So the steps in the financial planning process are simple. I call this my 10-step personal financial planning process. So there's 10 steps. So the first step is, guess what? It's called education. And when I'm talking about it, I'm not talking about school. I'm talking about general education, knowledge. You have to keep your knowledge up to date. As we speak, it's changing. It's a changing world out there. So you got to continuously educate yourself. I do that every day. I read articles, I read books, I do all that. So within your plan, what are the steps to get the education? Well, you read books. What books? Well, give me a call and I'll give you some recommendations. Okay? Very, very simple. You attend seminars and workshops. There's lots of them out there. There's all kinds of financial advisors that do workshops and seminars and things like that. Attend them. BCIT has courses. There's night school courses. There's all kinds of courses out there. You can take the Canadian Securities course. You can take the Mutual Fund Dealers Association course, the MFDA course. You can go on the internet. There's nothing better. I've said it on this show many, 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 many times, that the best source of wealth is the internet. Talk about Henry Ford all the time and his mastermind. Okay? I have a mastermind group. I have them on my show frequently. And they have an abundance of knowledge. They are specialists in their areas. Because nobody can carry everything, all the knowledge they need around in their head, because you go nuts after a while. So you surround yourself with a group of specialists. So you have a specialist in accounting, like Jamie Newens from Davidson and Company, just as one example, okay? Blair Manton on debt, on debt management. Had him on this show several times with Sands and Company. Timothy Lack, a lawyer who specializes in estate planning. He's with Lenny Atmore. Fern Northcott, who has her own show on this station right now, is a real estate specialist. These are just some of the members of my mastermind group. So when I need information, I turn to them. And you need to know where to gather information. The internet is the most valuable tool that we have ever had. ISIS is highly successful, unfortunately, but because of the internet. Politicians are very successful because of the internet. You can talk to a lot of people, get a lot of information from a lot of sources, distribute a lot of information to a lot of sources by using the internet. If you are computer literate, it's time that changed. Call me. If I get enough people together, I'll put a course together on how to use the internet to do better financially. How about that? Why not? That's how I do all my stuff. What you're looking at right now is a result of the internet. I'm on the internet right now. Okay? So I have a device, I have this window that I can look at. I can look at the world through this window. Remember in the olden days when you had to do a research project? What'd you do for computers? You went to the library. So you looked up, you got the microfiche out, and you found what you were looking for after a great deal of digging and searching. Then you went to the photocopy machine, you photocopied whatever you found, then you took it back to the office and you manually typed it in. You don't have to do that anymore. You don't even have to get out of your chair. You click your mouse button, you go to the world, you're on the internet. You're looking at libraries all over the whole wide world. No microfiche, cut and paste. Very simple. You don't even have to type. I can talk to this computer and it will type for me. I sent an email to somebody on the way over here, driving my car, never took my eyes off the road. I actually delivered a text message to a friend of mine without taking my eyes off the road, without even having to look the number up. I just say, Siri, send text message. To whom shall I send it? I give her the name. Then she says, what do you want to say? So I say what I want to say. She reads it back to me. Do you want me to send it? Yes. Click, done. Driving my car, never took my eyes off the road. Was I distracted? Some might say I was. I don't know. I don't think I was breaking the law. Anyway, bottom line is the internet, very, very, very valuable place to get information. And if you don't have a mastermind group, you probably don't even need one if you got Google. And if you don't know how to use Google, you're missing the boat, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there. So what do you think? Just what's your comments on education? What do you got to say about education? Think it's not important? I think it's vital. I think one of the major reasons why people fail financially is lack of knowledge. I worked for a company called the Investors Group for many, many years, and they used to say, we are surrounded by people who have lack of knowledge, limited vision, and entrenched habits. That's why they need us. Lack of knowledge, big, big problem for most people. 99% of the people, when I open up an account, I have to ask them, what is your level of knowledge? They always say low. Always. The odd one, maybe 1 in 100 times, might say it's moderate. Most of the time it's low. Now whose fault is that? Is that the fault of the potential client? Is that the fault of the government? The educational system? There's something drastically wrong with that because, ladies and gentlemen, it's not how much you make that counts, it's how much you keep. Everybody knows how to make it. They teach us that in school. They teach us how to make money. But they fail to teach us how to keep it. Okay? How to keep it is so important. And you have to have a burning desire. You know, I boiled it all down the other day when I was thinking about goals. What's the simplest way to say it? Well, you have to have goals, and then you have to have a burning desire to achieve them. I think if you have goals and a burning desire to achieve them, you'll probably be successful. And mind you, I use the word burning desire. Kindle desire, whatever you want to call it, but it's got to be there. It's got to be red hot all the time. Is that you? Can you identify with what I'm saying? You yawn when we talk about money? Your eyes get glassy when we talk about money? Is that you? Are you listening? Listen up, because this is very, very important. And I don't see the phone ringing. 604-280-0650. Long distance, 1-877-280-0650. For those who are shy or reluctant to talk on the air, Frida is down at the office right now. You can reach her at 604-737-3512. Calling long distance, it's 1-800-661-1495. Just tuned in, I'm certified financial planner Fred Snyder, also a registered financial planner representing Scotia Wealth Management. Notice the name change. Scotia McLeod has changed their name to Scotia Wealth Management because it's more descriptive of what we do. We do financial planning. That's why financial planning requires a written plan. You got to start with a plan. The investors group, almost like it's holy, call it the plan in capital letters. Well, how about your plan? Once again, 604-280-0650. Long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Log on, www.cil650.com. And for the shy people, Frida is down at the office, 604-737-3512. Long distance, 1-800-661-1495. So education, books, seminars, workshops, the internet. That's what we just talked about. Make notes. Get a pencil, paper, write it down. Remember it, because it's important. Education is step one. Step two is you have to have goals. Here we go with the goals again. And mind you, you can go up this ladder, back, up and down and back and sideways. It's all interactive. So what can we say about goals? Well, first of all, goals have to be clear. They have to be really spelled out, crystal clear. It's not enough to say, I want to be rich. How rich do you want to be? Be able to describe it. Be able to visualize yourself having already achieved wealth. You're a wealthy person. What's a wealthy person look like? How does it feel to be wealthy? What picture can you invoke that connotes wealth? Is it a bag of money? I'll tell you what I see when I think about wealth. I think of Scrooge McDuck swimming in piles of golden coins. Great big bag of money he's sitting on. That's the way I see wealth. Me. And I'm greedy. Okay? No sweat. Let's talk to Tracy from Vancouver. Tracy, welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning, Fred.
Good morning,
How are
Tracy.
you this morning?
Pretty good. How are you?
Well, at least it's not raining out, at least where I live.
God, I could never believe that you could get that much water up in the sky.
I know, exactly.
Been coming down forever.
Yeah. I wanted to ask what you might recommend or what you might say or something. The federal budget apparently will not be released until maybe February or March.
Mm-hmm.
Would you or could a person go ahead and put their $10,000 in that the Conservatives promised into their TFSA?
Well, first off, I think it would probably be a good thing to do. The word is they're going to decrease it to $5,500. That doesn't mean that's going to happen. We don't know. And
okay,
so currently you can put in $10,000. The worst thing that could happen, they might say you got to take out $4,500, but they'll never penalize you. I can't believe that they would. They'd have too big a problem with the taxpayers.
Okay, so in other words, go ahead and put it in, and if...
Well, you have to use your own judgment on that. I'm not going to recommend
No, and I certainly wouldn't come back and say, you said so-and-so, but just generally...
I think it's a good bet. I don't think it's going to hurt you to put it in. If you got the extra money, put it in.
Do you have any of your group of people that are tax people?
Well, I have an accountant by the name of Jamie Newen. He is part of my mastermind group.
Right.
He works for Davidson and Company. He's been on my show an abundance of times, and
Uh-huh.
he's a pretty smart guy. He's a partner there. He knows his stuff. And so
Right.
if anybody needs specific information or they need somebody on the accounting side, he'd be the guy I would talk to.
Okay, I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and put it in and take the chance that all they'll tell me to do is take it out.
I think that's the worst thing that could happen, and that's not going to hurt you anyway. You just move back to where it was.
Right, exactly.
I just can't believe that they would pass a law like that and then make it retroactive and penalize people for an overcontribution, when at the time they made the contribution it was legal. You're not supposed to know what the government's going to propose.
Right.
At this time. So I think it's a good bet. That's the answer. That's my answer. I'm sticking to it.
That's fine. Okay, that's all I needed to kind of find out. The other thing I'd like to say is, Fred, I was one of those uneducated financial people who just basically put money into a savings account when I had it. I would like to say that my attending many of your workshops, listening to your radio program, motivated me, to see you as a financial person to help me get my life in order. And I can't say thank you enough. You have been just an asset to where I am now, and just generally how I feel about my financial situation. I'll tell you.
Well, tell me something, Tracy.
Yeah.
How do you feel about your financial situation?
I'm not wealthy. I mean, I don't have millions of dollars.
You're a retired bus driver, right?
I'm a retired bus driver. And I was a single parent, so I don't have a lot of monetary assets. But you know what? I have done my dreams, and
your number one goal, your number one priority was travel.
Was traveling, and I've done so much of that it wouldn't have happened had it not been for you planning things, helping me get to where I'm going. And I was 45 when I started really looking at planning my financial future in the age of retirement.
And you've been a customer of mine for what, about 12 years now or so?
Yeah, 12 years now, I think. Yeah. So, and I want to say that it's never too late. You know, when people say they're 45 or they're 50, that's not too late to start. And I live on a very I live a quiet life most of the time. I don't go out for dinner a lot. I don't.
No wild Friday night parties or anything like that.
Maybe lots of people do. But I wanted to just say thank you for the wonderful help that you've given me over the years.
Well, Tracy, thank you very much for the compliment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, and if I don't, I won't hear from you. So have a nice
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Holidays, and all that.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Same to you and to all our listeners.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're listening to the show right now, Tracy's line is now open, so get on the line and give us a call. In the meantime, we'll talk to Maria. Maria, welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Maria.
It's so nice to talk to you. I wish I called before Tracy, because a lot of the things that I was going to say she's already touched on. But actually, this is what I want to do. I want to wish you and your family and all the listeners very Merry Christmas. And to all those that do not celebrate Christmas, I wish them health and happiness. Also, I want to say to the listeners that there is this person that I listen to every Sunday. His name is Fred. And what does he do? He educates. He repeats himself to make sure nobody misses anything. And he goes about this every Sunday. And it's the best hour for me every Sunday, even though I enjoy all the music that is on right now for Christmas and throughout the year. I just want to say to the listeners that they should not wait until something goes wrong to talk to Fred. They should do it when everything is just fine. Take a moment, visit with him, listen to him, Take your time, but don't do what some people like me have done, let it all slip by just like water. So, Fred, thank you very much. I appreciate everything you say, and even though I cannot do all the things that Tracy does, I thank God for my health, for my family's health, and from my home to your home, a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Maria, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your testimonial.
Well, you know,
You're
Fred,
a wonderful lady. I really like you.
I am going to come and meet you one day, but now with this newborn in the family, my daughter needs me a little bit more. But, Fred, you keep up the good work. You're the only person that I hear on the radio that is so patient with every caller, and you repeat whatever is necessary to make the person understand. And like you say, you've got the masterminds that come in and help you, and I love listening to them also. So, again, Merry Christmas to you. God bless you. Take care, and a Happy New Year at that, too.
And the same to you, Maria.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Maria's line is now open, and we do have open lines. So 604-280-0650. Long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Log on, www.CIL650.com. For the shy people, those who are reluctant to talk on the air, Frida's down at the office right now, area code 604-737-3512. You might give Frida a call if you want a second opinion on your investment portfolio. There's no cost whatsoever. There's no obligation whatsoever to give you a written assessment of your current portfolio as well as a written financial plan that comes along with it, okay? So you give Frida a call, 604-737-3512. If you're calling long distance down there, it's 1-800-661-1495. So getting back to goals, number 2, that's the second step. They have to be clear, very focused. They got to be in writing. You got to have a burning desire to achieve them. They got to be realistic, which means you can't be prime minister. Not likely. Maybe. The desire's enough, but I doubt it. But so the goals have to be tempered by realism. Do you have the confidence that this goal that you're setting is achievable? And last but not least, you have to have the dogged determination to pursue that goal, regardless of circumstances, criticism, or what other people say, think, or do. Clear, written, desire, realistic, and determined. That's the way you establish goals. And it's probably a good idea when you're doing that to sit down with your financial advisor and say, help me set some goals. Help me establish these goals. Because that's your roadmap. If you don't know where you're going to go, or you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there. You'll get someplace maybe, but maybe not where you want to go. So, that's goals. Next, you have to evaluate. You have to have an honest evaluation of where you stand right now relative to those goals. How many people listening to this show right now can tell me line by line what their income is, what their take-home pay is, how much do they spend every month, what their discretionary income is, and what their net worth is? How many people listening to this show right now have a set of documents called financial statements? Just imagine a company that didn't have financial statements. You invest in a stock, you say, well, send me your annual report. Sorry, we don't have one. Okay? You need a set of documents, a set of financial statements that list your assets line by line, your income line by line, your expenses line by line, so that you can determine your net worth and your cash flow. At the end of every month, is your cash flow positive, negative, or neutral? We've talked about it 1,001 times right on this show. But you have to be able to evaluate where you stand right now. And there they are. Expenses, your income, your liabilities, your assets, your cash flow, and your net worth. If you can't tell me what all those are in your case, you need help. That means a phone call. 604-280-0650. Long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Frida down at the office, 604-737-3512. Long distance, 1-800-661-1495. So again, you evaluate an honest assessment or evaluation of where you stand right now. You need to know what your expenses are, what your income is, what your liabilities are, what your assets are. You need to know what your cash flow is. Is it positive, negative, or neutral? Your net worth, is it positive, negative, or neutral? If you have a negative net worth, you're bankrupt. If you have a negative cash flow, you're going bankrupt. Negative cash flow, you gotta tighten up on your expenses so that you don't have a deficit at the end of every month. I don't care if you have $1 million in assets or $1 million in a bank account for that matter. If you're spending more than that $1 million is earning, then that deficit has to come out of your assets, which are diminishing. And you'll run out. You'll hit the wall one day. I don't care how rich you are. You can't spend more than you earn. You need to know that. Very, very important. And that's embedded, ladies and gentlemen, that's embedded into a written financial plan. That's part of it, a set of financial statements. So any questions, get on the line and give us a call. Let's talk about it. The next step is tied in with the last one. They kind of go hand in hand, but it's really that I put in there for focus. It's called cash flow. How do you maximize your cash flow? One way to do that is diminish the amount of tax that you legally pay. Don't pay any more tax than you have to. You shop. You shop for everything. Shop for groceries. Shop for cars. Shop for insurance. Shop. Don't just accept the price that they give you right off the bat, because it's always going to be more than they'll really sell it for. You buy a car, say, well, really, how much can you take off of that? Learn how to negotiate, like Donald Trump. He knows how to negotiate. He brags about it all the time. But learn how to negotiate. So shop. Shop for life insurance. I will guarantee anybody listening to this show right now, if I can't do what I'm about to say, I'll buy you lunch at the Cactus Club. You come into my office for a quote on your life insurance, and I will guarantee you I can get you the very same amount of life insurance that you have right now at less cost than you're currently paying. Because I can shop the market. The form used to be called L18. It escapes me right now. I can't remember what they call it, but there's a form you can file with your employer to get your income tax withholdings reduced. If you get a tax refund, it means you've overpaid your taxes, so they got to give it back to you. Why would you lend money to the government at low interest rates? That's stupid. File an L18 form or whatever they call it right now, and your employer will take less money off at source so that you're not overpaying your taxes. You're making quarterly installments to the government because you got investments and things like that. Invest your money in a way that the tax, that you get some relief on the income tax. Like interest income is the last thing most people need because it's fully taxable. Dividends and capital gains, even if you're in the top tax bracket, are only taxed at about 20%. Okay, so look for capital gains and dividends instead of interest. Very, very important to understand that. Have a family company. Set up a family corporation. Make loans to your family. Legitimate loans, but make loans. And make sure that you have the best investments inside your portfolio. I talk about this all the time on this show because I see portfolios every day that don't have a single fund that I recommend in that portfolio. Not one. Which tells me they're not shopping for the best performing funds. So their advisor must be just putting the chart up on the wall and throwing darts at it. Because what is the selection process? Why would you pick Fund A over Fund B if Fund A has less risk and a better return than Fund B? Why would you ever pick that? Makes no sense at all. But how do you know? How do you find out? How does your advisor select the investments that you have in your portfolio? How does your advisor do that? You need to know that. Question your advisor. Question your advisor and say, what is the mean rate of return? What is the standard deviation? Use technical terms, because if he gets glassy eyes, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay? So how risky are the investments that you have, and what's the overall risk in the portfolio, and what is your asset allocation? How much of your portfolio should be invested in fixed income securities, and how much should be in equities? And how are the fixed income securities diversified? Are they diversified between long and short-term bonds? Are the equities diversified by country, by asset class? What is the risk? What is the standard deviation? And what is the benchmark? When you say to your advisor, am I doing well? The advisor says, compared to what? And that's a good statement. Compared to what? Because well is a relative term. Compared to the index. What index? How about the Toronto Stock Exchange? Am I doing well compared to the Toronto Stock Exchange? Am I doing well compared to the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the New York Stock Exchange, Standard & Poor's 500, NASDAQ? Those are all benchmarks. Am I doing well compared to those benchmarks? This is important stuff. What is the overall standard deviation of my portfolio? 10 is considered moderate. 1 is considered really low. It can get as high as 40 and even more. What is it and what should it be? There's a test that you can take that will determine how much risk or what your risk profile is. You need to take that test. I got to go to the break. I'm going to go to the break, and when we come back, we'll continue talking about the financial planning process. We've covered 4 steps. There's 10. We'll try to get through them all by the time we finish this show. Don't go away. So you got to start thinking about how you're spending your money.
Fred Snyder.
If you can reduce the amount of tax you pay, that means that you get a tax refund. So you get a tax refund means you've really overpaid your taxes. And if you overpay your taxes, what you've really done is loan money to the government. So rule number 1 of my 46 ways to ease the tax bite is don't lend your money to the government.
Fred Snyder.
So pay your taxes. We're not talking about not paying your taxes. We're talking about legal ways to reduce the taxes you pay, not avoid them, to reduce the taxes you pay so that you can have more money to save and invest so that you can achieve your financial goals sooner. And if you're already there, stay there longer, because once you get there, it's your obligation to stay there.
Fred Snyder.
If you have a financial plan and you're somewhere in the middle and you're wondering what tweaks that you should make in that plan to make it what you really want it to be, time to make a phone call. Or if maybe you're just getting started out and you want to get a starter plan, maybe it's time to talk to somebody like myself and get yourself on the right track.
Fred Snyder.
I think that everybody needs to go and make an appointment to see Fred.
Talk to Fred. Listen to Fred. Fred Snyder. Sunday mornings 9 to 11 on CIL 650. This is CISL Vancouver. Smooth and easy. CIL 650. This is It's Your Money on CIL 650. Here once again is Fred Snyder.
Okay, the music is playing and we are back. This is Snyder's School of Fine Financial Planning. Maybe we should change the name of the show to Wealth Management Incorporated, or Unincorporated, or Unlimited, or something like that. Wealth Management Unlimited. That'd be a good one. Maybe if you think we should change the name of the show, it would be more appropriate, give us a call, make a suggestion. Okay? We're talking about your money and how to keep it. And the best way to keep it is to get yourself a proper financial plan. Now, I can say education, and I can say setting goals, and I can say all these things, but a proper financial plan covers all that, as we've already explained. For example, education is number 1 in the plan. How am I going to educate myself? How am I going to keep up to date? Goals: clear, written, desire, realistic, and determination. Then we talk about evaluation. Proper set of financial statements. Expenses, income, liabilities, assets, cash flow, net worth. All have to be established. 4, cash management, income tax. When we went to the break, we were talking about income tax. Talking about the famous L18 form. I just heard that commercial. They were saying the same thing on the commercial. Don't overpay your taxes. Whether you should incorporate or not. Whether you should have a family corporation. Family loans. I should have put the rules of attribution in there as a point, because that's a trap that you can run into. But ultimately, your cash management means you're making more money. How can I make more money? How can I keep more of what I earn? How can I avoid having a deficit? Okay? And I know I'm repeating myself. Why? Because I'm teaching you what you need to know to make better financial decisions. Learning is about repetition. So we have cash management. Then we have risk management. So what is risk management all about? Risk is, what are the unexpected things that could happen? What could happen to you that you weren't anticipating? How about a heart attack? Okay? A stroke. You lose your job. I don't think anybody expects to get fired, but it happens. You get downsized. You can set up trusts is one way to start dealing with these issues. But what happens if you come home one evening and your partner is no longer there, walked out, spouse gone? What happens? What happens to your assets? You just lost half of everything you own, minimum. And you know that the chance of divorce in a marriage is 50-50? And then if you get remarried, the chances of that breaking down is 50-50 too. So start cutting something in half every time you turn around, and before long you got nothing left. That's what happens. Happens all the time. What happens if somebody slips on your front porch and breaks their leg? How about a lawsuit? Or your dog bites somebody? What happens if there's an earthquake? Your house falls down. It's been known to happen. What if are the two key words when we talk about risk. What if? Ask yourself that question over and over and over and over again. What if? What are the things that could create cracks in my otherwise solid financial plan? So we're halfway there. There's a lot of meat on these bones here, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of stuff that has to be resolved. But don't expect to resolve it all in one meeting with a financial advisor. Because if you have a plan, you're on track. And you can sit down and say to your financial advisor, the last time we talked about insurance and risk, but let's move on. Let's talk about what else I need to do. Okay? And this gives you the path. This gives you the direction. This is the hub of your financial affairs, a written financial plan. You need it. You may not think you need it. Someone once said, we don't know what we don't know. And that's probably true. And if we knew everything we could know, maybe we'd be so scared we'd be hiding all the time. But that's what happens. Debt. Number 6 is debt. Notice I colored them red. Risk and debt. They're red for a reason. They're both dangerous. Okay? So when we talk about debt, we have good debt and bad debt. Now, how many people listening to this show right now can tell me the difference between good debt and bad debt? I'll bet you Tracy can. Okay? Because there is good debt, believe it or not, and there's bad debt. Like Justin Trudeau said in his election campaign that he was going to rebuild infrastructure, going to spend billions of dollars on infrastructure. What does that mean? It means he's going to rebuild bridges that are falling down, highways that are falling apart, and so on. And he said, I'm going to run deficits to do it. And some people wouldn't like that because they don't like that. And you know that I don't like that. But maybe, just maybe, borrowing money to rebuild a bridge is good debt. Okay? So I'm talking at the government level right now. But how about at the personal level? Let's say that I borrow money to buy a car. If interest, you can buy a lot of cars these days at zero interest rates. Maybe that's going up now with rising interest rates. But if I don't pay any interest to buy that car and I don't pay too much for the car, that might be good debt. On the other side of the coin, if I buy a car and I have a loan to buy it and the interest rate on that loan is 10% and it's not tax deductible, that's bad debt because the car depreciates. The underlying asset, anybody can find me a car that doesn't depreciate. I'll buy a dozen of them right now. Okay, cars depreciate like crazy. 30% when you drive it off the lot. So you borrowed money to buy it, and you lost 30% of what you borrowed the moment you drove the car off the lot. Wow. But think of it this way. Let's say you pay 10% interest. How much did you have to earn to have the 10% left to pay the interest because it wasn't deductible? You had to earn 20% if you're in the top tax bracket. Earn 20, pay 10, have 10 left to pay the interest expense or service the debt. 20%. And if that's an 18% credit card, it's now 36%. Wow, that's bad debt. So how do you convert good debt or bad debt to good debt? You make it tax deductible if possible. You explore ways to re-engineer your financial situation so that the bad debt can be turned into good debt because it's low and it's tax deductible. If you have a bunch of credit cards, you get a home equity line of credit on your house to pay off those credit cards, and you'll pay 3.5% instead of 18%. If you can make the 3.5% tax deductible, it costs you almost nothing. And that improves your cash flow and reverses your direction. Instead of heading for the wall, you're heading away from it now. I mean, I see this, ladies and gentlemen, listeners. I see this every single day. I talk to 4 or 5 people, and I see their financial profiles. And they're almost always the same. They don't have a good investment program. If they have one, they don't understand it. They don't have a financial plan. They don't have a financial advisor. They don't shop for the best products. They don't do any of the things that I've been talking about so far. Yet somehow by magic, they're going to get to where they want to go financially. It's not going to happen. And that's why you take 100 people who started equal today at the age of 25. By the time they end up at 65, 1 is wealthy. 1 out of 100. 4 are well-to-do. 5 are still working. 36 don't have to worry because they died. There's 54 left over. They're dead broke, dependent on family and state. Over half the people who started out equal at age 25 are dead broke by the time they end up at 65 because they didn't have the knowledge and they didn't have the plan. People everywhere, lack of knowledge, limited vision, entrenched habits, sums it up very, very well. Compliments of the investors group. So we've talked about education, we've talked about goals, we've talked about evaluating where you stand right now, cash management, risk management, and debt management. Turn your good debt into bad debt. Restructure. Eliminate it. Make it deductible. Maybe in some cases you declare bankruptcy. Maybe there's no way out. You can also create a proposal. We had Blair Manton in here from Sands & Company a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about all this, and he says most of the people that come to them, they end up with a proposal. So they make the people that the money is owing to accept a proposal where they get 30% instead of nothing if the client goes bankrupt. Okay? Counseling. You got to be aggressive about getting out of debt. If you have a financial plan, within that plan you should have a debt repayment schedule, an amortization schedule which shows you how much you owe when you make a certain payment against your debts. That's part of the plan itself. Your mortgage payments should all be outlined inside that written financial plan. I would suggest anybody listening to this show right now that they acquire the book called The Smith Maneuver, written by Fraser Smith. It's all about how to make your debts tax deductible. And don't try to do it on your own. Okay? As attractive as it may sound here on this show and all the rest of it, it can be complicated and it's easy to make mistakes. And you don't want to do that. So debt management is number 6. Any questions on debt management? Get on the line and give us a call. That's why we're here. I got up early this morning, prepared for this show, drove all the way out here and all the rest, just so I can take it. What have I got? I got 2 calls from 2 very happy clients so far. That's it. Are the rest of you people out there not interested in what I'm talking about? I can't believe it. 604-280-0650. Long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Log on, www.CIL650.com. And for the shy people, the people who want to get right down to brass tacks, Frida's down at the office, 604 800-737-3512. Calling long distance, it's 1-800-661-1495. Just tuned in, I'm certified financial planner Fred Snyder, representing Scotia Wealth Management. Name change, not Scotia McLeod anymore, because wealth management really defines what Scotia McLeod does and really what I do as well. I'm a financial planner. I believe in financial planning. I believe that everybody needs a proper financial plan and a financial advisor to help them make the plan work. And I often refer to that as three things, three P's. The first P stands for plan, the second P stands for planning, and the last P stands for products. You need to make sure that inside your plan you have the best products that are out there. So have a long conversation with your financial advisor, be it me or somebody else, as to how the investments that were chosen, how were they originally selected inside my plan. Once again, 604-280-0650, long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Log on, www.cil650.com. Frida is down at the office, 604-737-3512. Long distance, 1-800-661-1495. We have Bernard from Richmond on the line. Bernard, welcome to the program.
Hey, Fred. Just really good to hear your show. I'm just on my way to a first aid course right now. But
Money first aid or what?
I was listening to your risks and that, and with the first aid, in financial planning, they're very similar in a lot of ways. You got to take care of your health and you got to take care of your wealth. But the question I have today is basically about the RSPs now, and also the TFSA. A lot of people put money into the RSP, but the TFSA, which is an amazing, product to invest in, have they raised the rates for next year, or is with the Trudeau government?
I don't know. I think we have to wait on that. We don't. It's my understanding that Trudeau is going to cut the TFSA contribution from $10,000 back to $5,500. He may even cut it more than that, for all you know. I don't know.
Okay, so we'll just have to wait to hear.
I would say this: the advice that I would give people is this: you find out what the maximum RRSP contribution. That's easy. You look at your last tax assessment in the lower right-hand corner. It tells you. They calculate it for you. TFSA contribution, if you put money in and take it out, you can put it back, but you can't put it back the same year. It's considered an over-contribution. And people get stuck with this quite frequently. They come in and they say, well, I have $10,000 a room. Here's a check for $10,000. Put it into my TFSA. We do it, and we find it's an over-contribution because they did a withdrawal and they put it back the same year. So you got to be careful about that. And so I would say that what people should do as far as RSPs is concerned, make the maximum contribution, calculate or have your financial advisor calculate what the tax savings is, and invest the tax savings from the RRSP into your TFSA. And now you got both.
Okay.
And the TFSA will grow enough money tax-free to be able to pay the future tax on the RRSP, because an integrated plan.
Well, since the inception, how much are we allowed to contribute as?
If you never made a TFSA contribution, you would be allowed $41,000 currently. That will likely be reduced by $5,500, but now you're almost into next year, so you'll have next year's contribution coming up.
Okay, awesome. Okay, thank you very much, and you have a fantastic day. And
well, Bernard, you've been a client of mine for a long time. So what would you say about Fred Snyder if somebody asked you?
Well, Fred, you're a guy that definitely has integrity. That's what I would say, and you stand behind your decisions. And we all make mistakes, and you've always been there to do your best for people, and you got a good heart, big heart. That's, so you're just doing your best like everyone else. I mean,
Bernard, I love you too.
The world's greatest economist doesn't know what's going on, and you just try to direct people as best that you know, and you're doing well for a lot of people. Your clients have been happy with you.
Yeah.
And that's why you still have a radio program for, I don't know, how long is it? Your radio
I've been
program?
doing radio shows for 25 years.
Exactly. How many people could say that? So that speaks for itself.
Not too well. Thank you. I mean, I think you're right.
Yeah,
Appreciate that,
okay.
Bernard. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all the best, and again, I hope to see you soon.
Okay, thanks, Fred.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, Bernard's line is now open, so if you're out there, you're listening to the show, it's time. It's time to make a bloody phone call. Get on the line. Give us your comments. I share this show with you, our listeners, and I need people to talk to so I can share the show. I promise you I will not embarrass you if you phone in. Let's talk to Mavis from Vancouver. Mavis, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mavis.
To everybody. Is it a good idea to have one income tax return done by a financial advisor company?
I don't, that's a hard question to answer. I wouldn't do it.
Why?
Because a financial advisor isn't an expert in preparing tax returns.
But they say they have people that in the company that does.
Well, if they have a specialist at their fingertips that does tax returns, yeah, then it's a good idea. But I wouldn't do a tax return for somebody. I could refer it to a guy like Jamie Newen at Davidson and Company as an example. But any more than I do wills. I don't do wills. I give advice, but I don't do wills. Taxes, I give advice, but I don't do tax returns.
Mm-hmm. But I'm talking about the company that you work for, and they have a person that know how to do tax returns.
I don't know. I don't think that Scotia McLeod or
no, I mean, say for instance, if Scotia McLeod have a special.
Well, then that would be that person's job. It's like we have an insurance specialist on board. Okay, maybe that's okay. But I don't do, even though I'm a fully licensed insurance agent, I don't directly sell insurance myself. I give advice, and I refer to Susan Lee Alberta, who's an expert with us. That's all she does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's consistent with what I'm saying. We have, like, I often refer to myself, it's like you go to the doctor, you have a general practitioner, and he refers you to specialists. And when it comes to money, I'm the same. I'm the GP of money, and I surround myself with specialists.
Mm-hmm.
I specialize in investment funds, and I specialize in financial planning, but that's it in a nutshell. So I'm a GP. I need tax advice. I talk to tax people. I need wills and estate planning advice. I talk to people like Timothy Lack with Lenny Admore, and I try to deal with specialists wherever possible. And I try to build that team of specialists.
Mm-hmm.
And in the not too distant future, I'll be having regular meetings with my team of specialists. I might even do a radio show with all my mastermind group, right, sitting around the table. It could be a great idea, because then you need legal advice, you phone in. You need accounting advice, you phone in. You're talking with specialists. Mm-hmm. Considering doing that, actually.
Mm-hmm. But you would say that, I mean, there is no.
Well, do you need somebody to do your tax return?
Well, like certain things need to be done by.
Give me give me a call at the office, Mavis, and I'll refer you to somebody that can do your tax return for you.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
Okay, really appreciate your call.
Merry Christmas.
And the same to you, Mavis.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. So Mavis's line is now open, and we do have open lines. And again, I remind you, we're talking about your money and how to keep it, and we're talking about the steps in the financial planning process, and we still have 4 to go. We just dealt with debt management. I want to quickly review that. Get out of personal debt. Don't owe money personally. Owe money for business reasons. If you borrow money, make sure the interest on the borrowings is tax deductible, or don't borrow. Pay cash. And even if that leaves you broke, borrow to buy business assets if you have a business. There's ways to do this, and you need to understand how to manage your debt. I think a fundamental focus point when we talk about successful money strategies is debt management. It's extremely important. What happens when you started work? I know when I started work, I had to have a brand new car. What did I do? I borrowed money to buy the car. Okay? I calculated one time that if I'd have invested that money that I borrowed to buy that first car instead, that I'd have $3.5 million today. That's what my first car cost me in terms of today's dollars. Okay? So, and I could have postponed buying that car, but I couldn't wait. And what did I say when people came to me and said, Snyder, you got to start saving money? I said, I know, but I got this car loan to pay off. So I'll wait till I get the car loan paid off, and then I'll start saving money. And didn't we all do that? We got the car paid off, and then what did we do? We bought a new car and financed it too. And after financing cars for the next 20 or 30 years of our lives, we wonder why we don't have any money. Kids have to learn this, and they got to be taught this in school. Then they got to be taught this by their parents, and their parents have low knowledge to begin with. So how can their parents even teach them? Do I sound passionate? Believe me, I am. Okay? These are important issues. And your future financial success is about not how much did I make, it's about how much did I keep. And I'm talking to you about how to keep it. So let's move on. So we got debt. Now we have a retirement plan comes next. Now, people have different retirement goals. I don't want to retire. I'm having too much fun. Some people say, why don't you retire? I like what I do. Okay? And that's okay. I can retire if I want. But I don't want to. So when we talk about retirement, we have to understand about compound interest. The rule of 72. Do you understand how the rule of 72 works? If you divide the rate of return into 72, that's how long it takes to double your money. So if you got $500,000 in RRSPs and you get a return of 12%, it'll take 6 years to make that $1 million. Just divide the rate of return. Everybody will think you're a mathematical genius. You can do it in your head. Just divide the rate of return into 72. If the rate of return is 6%, it takes 12 years to double your money. Okay? If the rate of return is 10%, how long does it take to double your money? 7.2 years. Just divide the rate of return into 72. What would happen if you were in Las Vegas and you're playing blackjack? You put $1 down and you win. You now got $2. You let it ride. You win again. You now have $4 and so on. How long does it take before that dollar becomes $1 million? How many times? 20. If you let it ride 20 times in a row, $1 becomes $1 million. But that's if you don't pay any tax on the earnings, and I guess that would apply in Las Vegas to a Canadian down there. But if you pay tax at 26% only, one of the lowest tax brackets, on the earnings, you have, I think the number was 13,000 instead of over $1 million. The point is, how frequently, how many chances do you get to double your money? That depends on your life expectancy. It depends on the rate of return. It depends on your tolerance for risk. You got to look at all those things. So when we talk about retirement, what are your goals? We had Bernard call in earlier on the maximum RRSP contribution. You'll notice that I said max out your RRSP, reinvest the tax savings into your TFSA. You need to get your asset allocation right. How much of your money should be invested in bonds and fixed income securities, and how much in equities? What does the asset allocation overall look like? What is it and what should it be? You don't want all your money in Canada. If you look at Canadian investments right now versus American investments, U.S. investments, they're doing much better. Our dollar is way down because of energy. Oil. Oil's a big problem throughout the world. Price of oil is dictating almost everything. The U.S. economy is booming right now, in spite of their huge debt, like 17 trillion, maybe 17.5 by now. As we talk, it goes up. The average amount of debt in the United States for every man, woman, and child is about $40,000 each and getting bigger. When Obama was first elected, the national debt was $7 trillion. It's now $17 trillion. No wonder Donald Trump is getting so much admiration and respect, because he's saying he's going to fix it. Do you think he can fix it? I don't know. Nobody really knows. I don't want this to deteriorate into a political thing that we're talking about. But the United States is saying, and so is the world saying, that something has to change. We can't continue on the path that we're on, or we're in trouble, serious trouble. We hit the wall. So we've hit the wall right now and run out of time. So we have to go to the break, and when we come back, we'll continue talking about my 10-step personal financial planning process. Don't go away.
Fred Snyder.
I want you to imagine a person who is uptight, always worried, has high blood pressure, looking at their bank statement every time they turn around, and it's always red. Okay? They're spending more than they earn. They can't seem to get out of the hole. They're always telling people, I'm catching up, I'm trying to catch up. So they're always behind the 8 ball. And life isn't pretty. And they're not happy, and they're frustrated. And they're not even fun to be around, those kind of people. There's a black cloud hanging over their head. Visualize that, because there's lots of people out there right now that are in that boat.
Fred Snyder.
And you have to ask yourself the question right now, what would happen if that happened to me? Because here I am. I'm sitting out here. I don't have a written financial plan. I haven't taken the time to sit down and think about my goals, the things that I really want to accomplish. I'm like a ship without a rudder. I have no direction. I'm procrastinating because I don't know what to do. And I'm still not doing anything about it. So instead of being proactive as I should be, I'm being reactive. I'm waiting for the bad stuff to happen and not controlling my destiny. If that's you, it's time to make a phone call.
Call Fred. Talk to Fred. Listen to Fred. Fred Snyder. Sunday mornings 9 to 11 on CIL 650. Welcome back to It's Your Money on CIL 650. If you have a question for Fred, call 604-280-0650. Now, back to Fred.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And we have been talking about the 10-step financial planning process and how that fits into your overall financial situation, how that's going to help you get to where you want to go financially. That's the bridge. So I want you to think of those 10 steps as a bridge. Where you stand right now is your assets, your liabilities, your income, and your expenses. Where you want to go is about your goals that you've already established. You have to have a burning desire to achieve them. And they got to be well defined. So if you can sit back and say, I know exactly what I want. I have this fierce burning desire to get there. What in the world's going to stop you? I don't think too much. So retirement, we're talking about that. So you have to understand, the day that I retire, what will my budget look like? How much will I need to spend for the roof over my head? How much will I need to spend for groceries? For my vacation? For my home in a warm environment down south somewhere, maybe in the desert? Or Hawaii, or wherever. I like to fish. How much will my boat cost? How much should it cost? So you put together a set of numbers. Where can you get those numbers? You can go to Stats Canada, and they'll give you a set of numbers, and you can use that as a benchmark and say, okay, this is what it should be. What are my unique numbers in this particular case? What do they look like? So you got to look at the money that you're going to need to spend the day you retire. It's easy enough to create. If you're already retired, you know what it is. But if you're 15 years from retirement, then you're going to have to estimate what those numbers will be. And then you have to say, between now and then, what will the rate of inflation be? So those numbers have to be adjusted for the rate of inflation. So you will need a future income stream to start when you're, say, 65 that will last as long as you live. So you got to assume how long you're going to live. Well, I'm going to live for 25 years after I'm 65. I'm going to live until I'm 90. Or maybe with modern science, maybe I'm going to live to be 120. Okay? I mean, they can print body parts right now with a 3D printer. They can actually do that. And by the time a few years go by, they can probably manufacture a brand new heart for you if you need a new heart. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there. Think about the future. And what's it going to look like? And maybe we get hit by a meteor tomorrow and we're all gone. And there is no future. We don't know. But it would be terrible to assume there is no future and not plan for it, and then we get there. That would not be a good scene. Let's talk to Kathy from Surrey. Kathy, welcome to the program.
Hi.
Hi, Kathy.
I have a couple questions.
Mm-hmm.
On RRSPs, I'm not touching them or anything, and when I pass away, is it better to have 3 beneficiaries so it's divided up equally and each one pays the tax, or is the tax paid out of the estate first, out of my estate, and then dillied up?
The math would be the same no matter what. First off, if you pass away and you have an RRSP and you don't have a spouse as a beneficiary, the amount becomes taxable. It's supposed to be paid by your estate.
Okay, but I've got my one daughter for the beneficiary, but I've got another daughter, and a son.
Well, you can name a beneficiary directly from an RRSP without invoking the Wills Variation Act, which means you can discriminate against your children, and you can give it all to one because you can legally name a beneficiary. But the estate would have to pay the tax, and if the estate fails to pay it, your daughter would have to pay it.
Okay.
But it would be your tax bracket, not hers.
Oh, so it wouldn't affect her tax and her income then?
No.
It would be out of mine.
It comes out of the estate, and it would be taxed at your tax rate on your final tax return. That's what it's supposed to be.
Oh, okay. Okay. So then it's like I've told her that I wanted it to be divided up between the 3, and that's her. I put it all in her name, and then she can divide it up after I go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Well, that it looks to me like that would work. I think that you got to understand that if you can name a spouse as a beneficiary, it rolls over to the spouse.
No, he's long gone.
Yeah. Okay. So you have no spouse. Therefore, you have a taxable event when you pass away. That means the RRSP is 100% taxable.
Right.
How much is in that RRSP? Can you tell me?
200.
You got 200? Well, that's a $100,000 tax bill.
Oh, okay.
So your estate would be required to pay $100,000 tax, and if it was taxed at your daughter's tax bracket, it would still be the same because that 200 would put her in the top tax bracket too.
Yeah, but if she puts it on, so it's better to have her give it to her.
The math would be the same in either case.
Okay.
It's going to cost $100,000, and you can figure some way around that. And I don't see it, but maybe some aggressive tax planning of some kind or another. Maybe she could buy some flow-through shares or something to offset it. But it's your estate that technically has to pay it.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to work around it to get around anything. I just want to know if it's going to alter her income tax, or she will put it on my income tax, then my final income tax, and then what's left, then it'll get divided up, right?
Yeah, Kathy, I'll tell you what a lot of people do. This I would recommend in your case, if you're healthy enough to do it, you should buy a life insurance policy for $100,000.
I got a life insurance policy.
Okay. Well, the proceeds, how much is what's the death benefit?
$100,000.
Well, that's a coincidence. Because that $100,000, who gets that $100,000? Your daughter?
Yeah.
Well, she's got enough money to pay the tax. That's the money to pay the tax. Because that's tax-free.
But either way, it's going to be the same, right?
It's still going to be the same, yeah. There's no way. So if you want to improve on it, buy another life insurance policy earmarked to do exactly the same thing.
I don't think they'd give me another one.
Well, they might not because of your age or something. Yeah, I know.
No, it's just because I'm dealing with cancer. So,
yeah.
I just leave it the way it is. So, another thing is that our TFSA.
Yes.
When you're talking 40-some thousand, is that including next year's contribution?
No, that's as of now. That's what it is as of now until they change it, if they're going to change it.
Because I've maxed out every year, and I thought mine was only 36.
They increased the contribution this year. The last budget that Harper did, they increased the contribution to $10,000 for this year.
For 15 or for 16?
For 2015. It was increased to 10,000. Now the word is out that the new Liberal government is going to decrease it.
Oh, so I should actually put in top it up then, the other 5,000, right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
For this year.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, good to know. I thought they were talking about for next year, so I better get to the bank before the new year.
I think the probability is that what Trudeau will do, he'll decrease the contribution for 2016 to $5,500. I think that's what will happen.
But if you're telling me that it was already increased...
It was definitely increased last year, this year that we're in.
Okay, so I put it in the extra to top it up, the extra 5,000 for this year, and then if he rolls it back, that will be for the 2016 rollback, right? It won't affect the 15.
That's likely. I'm speculating. I'm not 100% sure, but that's likely, yes.
Yeah, I mean, how can he roll it back? We're already going into...
I know that, and he's got a bit of a dilemma. So I think going forward he'll decrease it, but I don't think he'll make it retroactive. He might, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
Depends on how desperate the government is for money, and they're getting pretty desperate.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Okay, Kathy, I really appreciate your call. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Yes,
Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye for now. Okay, Kathy's line is now open. We're talking about your money and how to keep it. Key phrase, keep it. It's not about, ladies and gentlemen, it's not about how much you make that counts. It's about how much you keep. You can't be broke on payday. You can't spend more than you earn. If you spend more than you earn, you got to borrow money. You got to go in debt to cover the shortfall. Once you go in debt, now you got to pay interest on the debt, so your expenses went up as well. You were already spending more than you earned because your expenses were too high. What'd you do? You borrowed money to cover the shortfall and increased your expenses, made them even higher. Because now you got to pay interest expense. It's a vicious circle. And the way you stop yourself from doing that is to get yourself a written financial plan. To get yourself a financial planner to be your coach and your guide to help you make the plan work. You make sure that inside the plan, you have the best investments available. You don't invest in GIC's term deposits and Canada savings bonds at a very, very low interest rate. You buy investments that grow. You buy investments that grow and are fairly safe. I didn't say perfectly safe. I said fairly safe. You find low-risk equity investments that grow. You establish an asset allocation program so that you know how much of your money should be invested in fixed income, how much in equities, and so on. That's what you do. And you've heard some of my clients phone in today. That's the way they're established, and they've dealt with me for a considerable length of time, and they're pretty happy because they're showing good performance numbers. Okay? 604-280-0650. Long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Log on, www.CIL650.com. Free to down at the office right now, 604-737-3512. Long distance, 1-800-661-1495. Now, I hope you were able to get all those numbers. You might have been driving your car. You couldn't write them down. You couldn't remember them all. They said on CNN, I think this morning, they were talking about memory, and they're saying that people multitask and so on. So you can really only concentrate and remember 3 things at a time. 3. I thought it was more than that, but they said 3. They were the experts. Okay, so I'll give out the most important of all those numbers. The most important one is this. It's 604-737-3512. 604-737-3512. If you want an appointment with myself, if you want a complimentary written financial plan, if you want a second opinion on your investment portfolio, If you want to get a will kit to help you update your will, you call Frida. Okay? And again, 604-737-3512. Got about 3/4 of an hour to go before we have to go. And we'll continue talking about the financial planning process. So we talked about the retirement process. Crunch the numbers. You need to know your own unique set of numbers. So how much do you have to put away to achieve your retirement objective? So you might be 50 years of age, and you might want to retire in 15 years at age 65. And today you need $4,000 a month to live. So you want to maintain your lifestyle when you retire at 65. So what you have to do is calculate how your expenses will change by the time you're 65. Like maybe when you're 65, your mortgage is paid off, so you no longer have to make a mortgage payment. I don't know what those numbers are going to be like. Maybe every year you're going to take a vacation when you're 65. You don't do that right now, so that will cost you $3,000, $4,000, we'll say, a year when you're 65, but not today. So you need to run 2 columns of figures. The first column is now, and the second column is called planning. That's what it's going to look like when you're 65. So let's suppose, for the sake of illustration, that the number when you're 65 becomes $3,500 a month. That's what I need to live on. Then you have to say to yourself, where does that money come from? Well, let's say when I'm 65, I'm going to get the old age pension, which is $560, $70 a month. I'm going to get the Canada Pension Plan, which is $1,000 a month. My spouse is going to get the same. So I got $3,000 a month in Social Security. Gosh, I'm almost there. I only need $3,500, and I got 3 of it already. My investments will grow to the point where I will have $500,000, we'll say, in investment funds 15 years from now. And I got more money now than I need. On the other hand, what if I don't? How much do I have to put away every month to cover the shortfall? Ladies and gentlemen, it's called crunching the numbers. You have to crunch the numbers. And I don't often run into people that know what their numbers are. I did a seminar out in Langley a few years ago. I had about 500 people in the room. And when I stood up in front of all these people, I said, how many people in this room right now know how much money they have to put away systematically to achieve their retirement objectives? You know how many hands went up? 2. So I think I can say, without fear of being contradicted, that the vast majority of people don't have the foggiest idea what they have to do from a financial point of view to achieve their financial goals. They don't. And it's factual. And I go on the internet and I look at web pages that are put up by the BC Securities Commission, by the Ontario Securities Commission, and all these organizations. There's one out there called Smart About Money. Fabulous web page. Fabulous web page. Find almost anything you want to know on Smart About Money. Google it. Look it up. Okay? It will do the calculations as to how much money you need to put away to educate your children. That's something that you need to be concerned about. It will tell you how much money you can put into your RRSP, how you calculate it. It will give you mortgage amortization tables, how to make your interest expense tax deductible, all things that we've talked about here on this show. It will tell you all that and much, much, much more. I like the name. It's Smart About Money. I should call my show that, Smart About Money. Okay? So, are you smart about your money? I say that, I often say on this show, pick your politicians wisely. How about picking your financial advisor wisely? Okay. How do you choose a financial advisor? Remember I said plan, planning, and product. A smart financial advisor is going to find you the best products, and how's that advisor going to do that? So again, I go back. What is your plan? So you got to crunch the numbers. You got to borrow to make that contribution if necessary. I have people that come into my office
frequently that I think I have lady last week, $100,000 in unused RSP room. That's all carryover. Maybe she should be borrowing some money. Maybe borrow $100,000, put that into an RSP. She's in a big enough tax bracket. She'd get about $45,000, maybe $50,000 back on her income tax, enough to pay off half the loan. Somebody wants to buy a house. How about the homeowner's plan? You can take money out of your RSP to buy a house, and not immediately anyway, pay tax on the amount that you withdraw. Maybe that's something that should be explored. You got systematic withdrawal plans. These are all ways to provide you with retirement income. And when all else fails, we had a fellow on the show a few weeks back, and again, I emphasize that we weren't recommending reverse mortgages, but we had a guy talking about reverse mortgages. And that can be an option to be explored by some people in certain circumstances. Okay? I can think of clients that I have right now that it's the only alternative for them. Maybe you have no investments at all. You got $1 million equity in your house and no investments. Maybe you got to use that equity in your house. So how do you access the equity in your house to provide you with retirement income? Reverse mortgage is one way to do that. Another way is a home equity line of credit. Might be another way to do it. But these are options which need to be explored by people who want to establish an income stream which is predictable, growing, and certain, so that they don't run out of money. Can you just imagine? You're 90 years of age. You just ran out of money. You just got your last check and your investment portfolio is drained. And then you go to the doctor. The doctor says, well, your life expectancy is another 30 years. Imagine you're an old person at 90 and you're broke for 30 years. You don't want to survive. So I'm saying this, your money has to live as long as you do. So how do you make sure that that happens? I'm going to say that again. Your money has to live as long as you do. How do you make sure that that happens? You got to know the numbers. You have to say, if I take $3,000 out of my investment portfolio, how does that affect my overall portfolio? How much tax will I have to pay on that? So these are all subjects, options that need to be explored. So if we move along and we go beyond retirement planning, we now have capital creation. This means, what do I do with my extra money? Well, the rule of 72 still applies. This is another investment accumulation plan. You still need to establish goals. You still need to worry about your asset allocation. You need to worry about tax. But if it's capital and you have a retirement investment program and a cash account, which is your capital account, you would put all your fixed income investments inside the retirement plan and all your equity investments inside the capital creation plan. You would take the tax refunds that you get from the retirement plan and use that to fund the capital creation plan. You would make sure that your interest is tax deductible. You might consider leverage. You might consider limited partnerships. There's all kinds of things that you need to consider when we talk about capital creation. In my industry, you come into my office, we have people that have an RSP account and a cash account. Well, the cash account is what they do with the extra money. It's not like it's cash, it's investments. We call it it's really an unregistered retirement savings plan. So you have a registered retirement savings plan and an unregistered retirement savings plan. Okay? The registered account, everything is tax sheltered in there. Everything that it earns is tax sheltered until you take it out. Everything you take out is taxable. I had a financial person the other day tell me that dividends inside an RRSP are taxable. There is no way that any income inside a RRSP is taxable unless it's withdrawn. If you withdraw it, it's taxable, period. So every dollar that comes out of an RRSP is considered income, even if it was originally capital to begin with. You put $10,000 into an RRSP, that was capital.
You paid tax on it. You put it into the RSP, they give you the tax back. Then when you take it out, it's considered income, and you pay the tax back. So what you're really doing in a lot of cases is deferring the tax, not really saving it. You get true tax savings in a TFSA because anything that the TFSA earns is absolutely tax-free, providing you don't make an overcontribution and subject yourself to a penalty. So I hope I made that clear. So when we talk about the capital creation program, we have all that to be concerned about. Now, when we go to step 9, we're now talking about your estate, your legacy. Your estate is what you leave behind when you die. I colored that purple, okay? But again, you got taxes to consider. We had calls today about taxes. You have guardians. Who looks after your children if you have any, if you die in a plane crash or whatever. You have executors. Who manages the estate? Executrixes, which is the female side of that one. You have a will to be concerned about. And again, if you call Frida or you call the show, you get a will kit. I try to provide all my clients with a will kit so they understand that process. You got to be concerned about the Wills Variation Act. We had a lady who called in earlier concerned about the fact that 2 of her children weren't beneficiaries. She doesn't have to worry in this case. But if the assets that we're talking about ended up in her estate, the Wills Variation Act would kick in. So if it so happens that you can name a beneficiary on a product like an RRSP or a RIF, it goes directly, it bypasses the estate, and there's no probate. Very important thing to bear in mind. You got estate freezes, which is a way that you can make sure that the growth in your assets attributes to your beneficiaries, and rather than becoming a taxable event in the event of death. You got inter vivos trusts, alter ego trusts, all different kinds of trusts. We have had Timothy Lack on this show on more than one occasion to talk about the legacy. I made one reference to the fact that really estate planning is all about love. And it is. So what happens when you die? How will your body be disposed of? Will you be cremated? You want to donate your body to science? You got to look after all these things before it happens. Because after you die, it's too late. These factors are all part of a proper financial plan. So we've talked about education, goals, evaluation process, managing your cash, managing risk, managing debt, managing retirement, managing your capital. Your overall estate is what you leave behind. So you've worked all these years and you've accumulated a small fortune. How do you make sure that these assets is passed along to your beneficiaries without the government grabbing it all in taxes and without them fighting over it? I've seen it over and over and over again many times. A lot of confusion because it wasn't spelled out. So you need to sit down and be concerned about that. And then number 10, put it in there deliberately because as important as everything else, there's none of these steps that aren't important, but the review process is this. How often do I look at my plan? Do I take my plan and stick it up on the shelf and let it gather dust? Never touch it? Ignore it? Is that what I do with my plan? I don't think so. Okay. How do I review my plan? Good idea to make an appointment with your financial advisor, be it myself or somebody else. Come in with your plan and say, let's review this. A year ago, this is what we talked about. What happened in the last year? My assets increased by 10%. That's good. Okay. My liabilities decreased by 10%. That's good. Oh, I didn't get rid of that deficit. I'm still spending more than I earn. That's not good. Okay. You got to review it. And how frequently should you review it? I would say that as often as necessary. That doesn't mean every day.
as often as necessary. Let's say that there's a war breaks out. There's a change in the global economic situation of one kind or another. Maybe that calls for a review of your plan. Maybe you have a material change in circumstances. Your spouse dies. You get married or remarried or divorced. Material changes. That calls for a review of your plan. Okay? Does this make sense? It should. If it doesn't, you need a personal financial plan. And this is all in there. It's all in Section 10. In Section 10, it's all laid out. Your goals, everything is in there. You need a personal investment plan. I use Morningstar Advisor Workstation for doing all the printouts and everything that I need. So when somebody comes to me with an investment portfolio, I do an analysis. I can put all that into Advisor Workstation and come up with 10 different pre-formatted scenarios and lay that out and say, this is what you got. This is how it compares to what I would recommend as a replacement. It's there and it's in writing. It's part of your plan. The plan itself is in writing, and the investment plan also is in writing. We have to go to the break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the financial planning process. Don't go away.
Fred Snyder.
Do you have a GPS? I do. I have one in my boat. I have one in my car. I get in my car, I can turn the GPS on, put an address in, it'll tell me exactly how to get there. When I'm in my boat, I can say I want to go to Anvil Island, and my boat will take me right there every time. Wouldn't it be nice to have a financial plan that would do the same thing?
Fred Snyder.
When you sit down with a financial advisor such as myself, I have to determine the level of risk that you need to take and the level of risk that you're able to take and the level of risk that you want to take and the way to get the best return on your investments. That's what your financial plan is all about.
Fred Snyder.
I just really appreciate and honor what you do every week for people, is giving them financial knowledge. So I'm just really happy about that. And just keep on doing the awesome work, Fred.
Fred Snyder.
So 3 kinds of people: those who really don't have a plan, they're just kind of starting out; those who are on the way; and those who feel they're already there. The 3 types of people. And those who are already there, maybe you need to get a second opinion on that portfolio, that you have to make sure that it's the right one, or maybe you have to tweak the plan itself. That's what we're talking about. If you fall into any of those categories, time to make a phone call.
Call Fred. Listen to Fred. Fred Snyder. Sunday mornings 9 to 11 on CIL 650. This is CISL Vancouver. Smooth and easy. CIL 650. You're listening to It's Your Money on CIL 650. Once again, here is Fred Snyder.
Okay, we're back. Remind you once again, ladies and gentlemen, this is a live show. We're here every Sunday between 9 and 11 talking to you about your money and how to keep it. And I think I can sum up pretty much what we talked about today simply by saying it's about the plan. It's about the plan. Visualize that. Visualize the word plan. Great big green letters. Capitalize them. Maybe have it glowing with a little bit of gold around the edges. The plan. And it's about money. It's about cold, hard cash. And when I hear that term, I disagree with it very much, because I don't think it's cold. I don't think it's hard. I think it's warm and it's cuddly and it feels good. Imagine your pockets stuffed with greenbacks. You got so much money you don't know what to do with it. How would you feel? You can give away thousands of dollars. It's like when people win the lottery. What's the first thing they do? They buy their mother a new house, their brother a car, and so on. Then they wonder why they're broke in a year. Okay? But you can do that. It's freedom. Money provides you with freedom. I remember one time I sat in the office of a grocery store in Smith Falls, Ontario. And I had just given a presentation of putting away $500 a month to the owner of the store. No, excuse me, the manager of the store, not the owner. And we got to the end, and he said, well, it makes sense to me. I think I should do it, but I need to think about it a bit. So I'm making the name up. But I said, John, I said, let me help you think about it. You told me that one of your primary objectives is that you want to own a store just like this in 10 years. Consequently, you want to put away $500 a month to achieve that goal. So I want you to visualize yourself as 10 years from now. And you're sitting in this very same chair. The only difference is you don't work for this store anymore, you own it. And you're looking out the window and you can see all those cash registers down there, and they're just buzzing with activity. You can hear the money jangling around down there and the crowd talking and so on. You can visualize yourself having achieved exactly what you want to achieve. Exactly. It's crystal clear in your mind. And you know if you put away that $500 a month, you will achieve this objective. You know that. So what is preventing you from going ahead with this plan right now? What is there really to think about? He said, you're right. Sign me up. And it's true. Why is it that we don't do things? We procrastinate. We say, I'll do it when I get around to it. I used to have round calling cards. They were circular. And on the back of the card, I put round to it. And the front was my name and phone number and everything. Somebody said, well, I'll think about it. I'll do it when I get around to it. I handed them the card and said, well, there's your round to it. You need to motivate yourself. You need to overcome fear, which is false evidence appearing real. You need to have a burning desire to achieve your goals. Read the book, Think and Grow Rich. Understand the word motivation. Understand that motivation is made up of two words, motive and action. Without a motive, there can be no action. A motive is the very same, interchangeable with the word goals. So if you're operating and you're trying to live your life without goals, you can't be happy. There is no way to be happy. Imagine ISIS. They have nothing to lose, those kids. If they had something to lose, they would not join ISIS. 99%, if not 99.9% of the problems in this world would be solved if we all had goals. A burning desire to achieve them. So I'm going to give you 5 steps, and I'm being repetitious. But this ties in and summarizes what we've talked about so far here today. The first step is to crystallize your thinking. You can call that whatever you want. I made a short note, it's clarify, that I wrote down here, but it's the same thing. Crystallize your thinking means that I have definite goals. They're so crystal clear I can visualize those goals. I mean, the house that I really want is the one that's at the mouth of Fisherman's Cove. I've told the story many times. That's got to be 30,000 square feet. It's huge. 2 yachts tied up at the back door. I'd like that. But even if I had the money to buy it, I wouldn't be able to afford the upkeep. The upkeep itself would choke a horse. But the bottom line is burning desire. You have to visualize what you want to achieve. So I wouldn't mind having a place at at Whistler, we'll say, at the base of the chairlift. That'd be nice. I can visualize that place. I want a 36-foot yacht. I can visualize that yacht. I want a Mercedes-Benz sports car. That's easily visualizable. what does rich mean? Okay? So in other words, I establish clearly defined goals. Be able to see yourself having already achieved those goals. That's the first step. Step 2 is to develop written plans with deadlines. Time-bonded written plans. Within a year, this is what I will do. Within 2 years, this is what I will do, and so on. So you have written plans with deadlines. Let that sink in for a minute, okay? Because I'll bet you that 3/4 of the people listening to this show right now don't have written plans with deadlines. And those that do, they're incomplete. Or they don't understand them. Or they don't have a financial plan, or they don't understand the financial plan. Lots of you out there, that's where you stand. If that's you, it's time to change. It's time to turn the page. It's time to do it differently. Written plans with deadlines. That's 2 of 5. Next comes desire. I just put the word desire down. But when I think of desire, I think of lust. I think of fire, burning desire. I see a heart that's on fire. That's the mental picture that I elicit. Burning desire. So if I have these goals, and they're in writing and they're crystal clear, and I have a burning desire to achieve them, I'm on the way. I'm halfway there. But what if I think I'm not worthy of these goals? I really can't do this. I can't put away $500 a month. I don't have the discipline to do that. You have to develop confidence. You have to believe that you can. If you believe that you can't achieve a goal, then make the goal smaller. Only put a goal down that you believe that you can achieve. You have to have the confidence that you can achieve that goal. Am I making sense? You have a comment that you want to make? Get on the line and give us a call. Let's talk about motivation. So you kindle your desire, burning desire. The goals themselves have to be realistic, or you won't believe that you can achieve them. And the last step is the most important one of all. And that is to have the iron-willed, the dogmatic determination to pursue your goals regardless of circumstances. No excuses, criticism, or what other people say, think, or do. These are your goals, and this is your life, and you're going to manage your life, and you're going to achieve all this and much, much more. Now, having done all that, let's suppose you turn your life around, and all of a sudden things get better for you. How do you feel? How do you feel when you're confident? How do you feel when you're on a journey and you know that you're going to get to your destination? How do you feel when you feel more confident? Can you visualize that? Can you visualize what it looks like when you're successful? Or counter to that, can you visualize what it looks like when you're a failure? Think about the word failure. How's that feel? You turn your pockets inside out and the moths fly out. No money. 65 years of age, or 70, or 80, whatever your age is. Things aren't going so well. How's that feel? Someone once said, the cost of success is high, but I say the cost of failure is even higher. You pay for failure with a little piece of your dignity and self-respect for the rest of your life. And you pay for that because you did not have a written financial plan. Good God, how many times do I have to say it? 604-280-0650. Long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Log on, www.CIL650.com. And Frida's down at the office at 604-737-3512. Long distance, 1-800-661-1495.
just tuned in, I'm certified financial planner Fred Snyder, representing Scotia McLeod, actually Scotia Wealth Management now, name change, slipped there. And again, I think the name change more appropriately describes what we do. We do financial planning. Of course, we handle investment products like stocks, insurance, mutual funds, GICs, term deposits, all that kind of stuff, estate planning. We do all that. And that comes under the heading of wealth management. So if you have a large estate, if you're a high net worth person, you need a proper financial plan, we have the plan for you. If you're just getting started out and you want to get involved in some kind of a starter plan, we have the plan for you. Someone once said, start in a small way if you like, but start. And I can make a case for building a financial plan for a newborn baby. Baby might not understand the plan, but the parents would. So this is Charlie's financial plan. Charlie was just born yesterday. This is his financial plan. He's going to start working when he's 24. He'll have graduated from college or whatever. It's still a plan. It's a process. So we talked today about the educational side. We start with education. We start with establishing goals. We start with an honest evaluation of where we stand right now. That's a set of financial statements or documents. We graduate to the cash management end of it. Then we do risk management, then debt management, then retirement, then capital, then estate planning, overall review. And let's talk to Chris from Burnaby. Chris, welcome to the program. Hi, Chris.
Hello. Hi, Fred.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Good, good. I don't want to waste time on, giving you compliments and all those, because I think you got enough already.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I'm going to do this after the new year, but before I do that, I have one question. My family doctor, I'm 50 years old.
Yes.
My family doctor is 79 years old.
Yes.
And when I went to see him, he had more problems than I have.
Oh, really?
And then he retired. And then, I had trouble finding, another doctor to look after my medical problem.
Okay.
And my question is that you've been you've been doing this for so long, at least 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
If I go to see you, how long are you going to be with me?
Oh, that's a good question. As long as I remain healthy. And if it ever comes to that, I'll have a good solid replacement for me who will do things exactly the same way I do it.
Because I don't want to go in there and see you, and make all these changes.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 months later, you tell me that you retired.
Well, the advice, the advice that I'm talking about is universal. And if anything should happen to me, the advice is still solid. And secondly, if I have a successor who replaces me, that still works. I mean, my own doctor just retired, and I have a new doctor. I don't know the new doctor, but she's got my file, and I like her. She's doing a good job.
But I don't like my new doctor.
Well, then it's time to shop for somebody else if that's the case. There's no easy answer to what you're saying, but anybody can become unhealthy, become disabled, can't do their job. I used to have one of my key competitors who was on the radio. She died at about 40 with 4 children unexpectedly. That happens. And really your question is this: what is your succession plan, Mr. Snyder? That's the bottom line. That's what you should ask any financial advisor you're dealing with, no matter who it is. What is your succession plan? That's the key to the whole thing, right there.
Yeah, I don't mean to be personal, but but it is a concern to me.
Of course, should be.
Yeah, and then okay, if you don't mind me asking another question.
Sure.
And I guess most people are afraid to ask that question. He said sometimes that the management fee that I pay, is more than what I earn. So when it comes to return and all that, so that's all after management fee, and all that.
Well, let's just suppose you're talking about is the return you're getting worth the management fee? Now, let's just suppose that the management fee was zero. How would the fund pay for the money manager?
No. I expect the return to be to be able to cover the management fee.
Yeah.
But after after paying the management fee, will I still get a reasonable return?
Well, most of my clients who've been with me for a reasonable period of time, if I shorten the timeline to very short, not necessarily the case, but anybody who's been with me for 5 years or better is generally averaging around 7%. And that's after fees. That's net of fees and everything else.
So, about 7%.
Yeah, so somewhere around there. Depends on the portfolio, of course. But generally, I'm trying to answer that question. I don't have any unhappy clients that I'm aware of that have been with me for 5 years or more.
Because as you know, my main interest is how much return am I going to get for my money, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So.
And what I do, I create and build portfolios, and I'm looking at portfolios that are the best in their class. I mean, the stock market itself has risk.
Yeah.
It's called systematic risk if you want to get technical about it. But the stock, that's why I started earlier today talking about benchmarks. So that's what you need to do. You have to say, if you're dealing with me or whoever you're dealing with, what is the benchmark that I'm comparing my investment to?
Right.
Okay. Right. So how well is my investment doing if it's compared to the Toronto Stock Exchange? Or how well is my investment doing if I'm comparing it to the Dow Jones Industrial Average? Or I have a benchmark I created myself, which I call Canadian Balanced, which is a 50-50 balance between equities and fixed income. And I use that as a benchmark. But when we set up an account originally, we agree on what that benchmark should be. I don't just jam one down your throat and say, well, this is your benchmark, and we're going to compare everything to that. We negotiate. How will we measure your portfolio and its performance, and against which benchmark?
Good, yeah.
And that's what's established. And if it deviates too much from the benchmark, then I didn't do a very good job. So you want there's a measurement called tracking error, which determines how well your portfolio did when compared to a specific benchmark.
Okay, good.
You got you have standard deviation. There's all kinds of ratios you can use to measure your portfolio. And Peter Drucker once said that if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So you need to agree with your investment advisor as to how it's measured. And again, I go back to your original question. The question is, what is your succession plan? That's the bottom line.
Okay, good, Fred. So I'll get in touch with you after the new year.
Okay, Chris.
And by the way, for your listeners' information, I had never talked to you before, and I'm not your client yet.
Okay.
Okay. So
well, your questions were extremely well placed, and I don't mind answering those kind of questions at all.
Yeah. So nobody's paying me, or I'm not getting any benefit from making this phone call.
Okay.
Not yet, anyway, right?
Okay, Chris. Really, can't tell you how much I appreciate your call.
Yeah. Okay, good, Fred.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Bye for now. Okay, Chris is now gone, and we have open lines, and we're down to about 6 minutes before we have to run, actually less than that. So you're out there, you're listening to the show, you have a wind-up kind of question that you want to ask, get on the line, give me a call. Again, you Get a will kit. You get a written financial plan, second opinion on your investment portfolio. And for the sake of Chris, even if he never becomes a client, that's still valuable. Okay, he gets an assessment of what he has right now. I had one earlier this week that I said, hey, I think you should stay where you are. The guy's doing a good job. Doesn't happen very often, but that's what happened in this case. So just because you're talking to me, if you have a good portfolio, it measured up, I'll tell you. And you'll feel good if you know that. Okay? Instead of being in doubt and wondering, I wonder if I should get a second opinion on this. I wonder if I'm doing what I should be doing. And again, I go back to what I said earlier. Compared to what benchmark? Okay? If you don't know whether you're doing well or not, it's because your financial advisor did not give you a benchmark. It was never discussed. It was never established. You should know that. You should know that you're getting 2% better than the benchmark. You're comparing Fund A to Fund B. In the case of Fund A has less risk and a greater return than Fund B that has more risk and a lesser return. Which one would you pick? Obviously A instead of B. But how do you determine that? Most of you don't know how. Okay? Most of you don't know how. There is software that's out there which is absolutely awesome. Morningstar Advisor Workstation, absolutely awesome. Your advisor isn't using that, maybe you should say, why not? Or maybe you should say to your advisor, how do you tell me about your selection process? You got me in 10 funds. How were they picked? According to what criteria? Did I put the list of funds up on the wall and throw darts at it? Or is there some kind of a plan behind all this? That's what we're talking about. So again, people fail financially because of lack of a plan, limited vision, entrenched habits. Lack of a plan. Nobody ever said you should have a plan. Nobody ever explained the need for one. A good plan involves goals for education, goals for other areas of your life. It's not just education. An honest evaluation of where you stand right now. A cash management system. How many of you people listening to this show right now, how many folks have a budget? When I use the word budget, do you run in the other direction? My mother used to manage money extremely well. She used envelopes. She had an envelope for the rent, an envelope for groceries. So when the paycheck came in, she put money in each of these envelopes. When the envelope was empty, she didn't borrow from the groceries to pay the rent. That's how she operated, and it works. That's called the envelope system. So how do you do your budget? Get a program like Quicken. There's computer programs out there right now. There's applications on my iPhone that I use for budgeting, right on the iPhone. There's an application for almost anything. And I wish there was an application for more time, because we're out of it. I have to go. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. Thanks for calling. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And we'll see you again next year. Won't be doing a show next week. Bye for now.
If you'd like Fred to review your portfolio, call his office right now at 604-737-3512. That's 604-737-3512.